Thank you very much, everybody. Glad to be here in Mexico. It's my first time. Mi español es horrible. Entonces, yo hablo inglés, por favor. So, yes. Hi, guys. I'm here today to talk about mass adoption and how we're going to get there. So, in Web3, we still have this build it and they will come mentality, and that really is not going to work. So first off, let me introduce myself. My name is Tracy Bowen. Some people call me Onaelle, that's my Telegram name, so you'll see people call me both names, and I am the summoner and founder of H.E.R DAO. So what is H.E.R DAO? Woo-woo. We are a women-focused developer DAO, and we are building great products focused on equitable futures for all. Our motto, as we said in the beginning, is if we want the future to look like us, then we have to build it. You know, as women, as diverse people, we cannot wait for people to, provide solutions for us. We have to do it for ourselves. Next slide, please. Our three mandates are inclusion, so that's expanding the inclusion of women predominantly, but other marginalized people, innovation, so we want to increase innovative developments by women, and 3, generating revenue, because generating potential success for economic success for women is very important to us. Next slide. We had a very successful ETH Denver, where we awarded 150 scholarships to women, and this was a very life-changing, award for most of these women, and we ended up winning some very great prizes. Lena is here, and she is one of those teams, part of one of those teams that actually won a prize, and we're very proud, and we were able to make very, very valuable connections. Next slide, please. Our membership is made up of very talented, successful women, and some of them are newcomers. Some of them you might recognize here, but there is a very, diverse group. Next slide. So, what is the problem? The problem is when we talk about mass adoption, we do not talk about inclusion. Next slide. Historically, people just have no strategy at all. They kind of talk about mass adoption like it will just happen on its own. Next slide, please. And they have no programs. So, how are you going to get to mass adoption if you don't have an actual plan? Next slide. And if you don't have a plan, you probably don't have any earmarked funding. And funding is, one of the things that we need to make this inclusive, mass adoptive future happen. Next slide. So, why is diversity important? A lot of people kind of think it's some kind of woke thing that people do when, they're just do-gooders and they just want to make the world a nice place, which is sometimes true. But actually, next slide, please. It's a very, very smart business decision, because if you have diversity and inclusion, then guess what? You have increased innovation. Next slide. And then the bottom line is, diverse groups actually make more money. Facts. So, the data is in. Next slide. And this is the thing. When we talk about mass adoption, we might find that people actually need kind of wider help, a lot of help. So, we're talking about taking a wider, equitable view. So we're talking about leveling up to achieve mass adoption. So next slide. And this kind of means that, we're asking people to start their Web3 journey, but some people don't even have stable housing, right? We're asking people to start their Web3 journey when 3.5 billion people are not even connected to the internet. So, it kind of stands to reason that if we really want mass adoption, then we should be tackling these issues. Next slide. So some of the projects that I'm working on in conjunction with H.E.R DAO and other projects are node homes. So in ETH Denver, we had a roundtable with projects in ETH Denver and Metro Denver Homelessness Coalition, and we were looking at ways to incentivize private developers to build social housing. And we came up with an idea of node homes. Node homes is literally building a building as a node. So integrating a whole validator node system into the architecture of new houses. We also have a launch pad where this is an impact DeFi project. So it's a launch pad for diverse ventures to support them in their startups, and we'll also create customizable index tokens to help the platform leverage investment. There's also a NFT DeFi project for social impact, where the NFTs themselves will be programmable DeFi products. And that's just like a small number of the things that we are doing to create equitable futures and to level up Web3 for everybody. Next slide, please. So, what can we do? First of all, we can stop thinking about inclusion as this fluffy, do-gooder, woke thing to do. It's not. It's absolutely completely vital and necessary to the next Web3 digital revolution that we're supposed to be having, and it's also culturally beneficial. Yes, and we can start by intentionally having diverse teams. You can go next slide. We can start by having diverse teams. So, next slide. So you can intentionally hire more women, more marginalized people, because there's an immense amount of wealth of talent out there. And we have to get out of our closed circles and start trying to find more people who don't look like us, who don't have our backgrounds, and we have to bring them in to the space. Next slide. So that's what I was just saying. And it's really important to have, people talk about inclusion and diversity and just think that if you just have, loads of women, then, that's going to make a whole lot of difference. Actually, we need more women in leadership roles. Next slide. So this is it. Put your money where your mouth is. There's a lot of projects with amazing, huge mountains of money, basically, huge treasuries, and they don't really do much with them. So we're asking projects out there to divert some of their cash, some of their treasuries to these projects to kind of make it easier for mass adoption to happen. So a bit about how you can work with H.E.R DAO. Next slide, please. So we have a lot of offers in H.E.R DAO. Next slide. We actually do hacker houses, where we work with projects to provide women-focused hacker houses, and that's with or without internal programming. In ETH Denver, we had we basically programmed a mini conference inside the hacker house, and we also had a holistic hacker house, which meant that we programmed yoga, massage, one-on-one coaching, because we think we need to reshape the future of work, and women shouldn't have to work themselves to death just to be in Web3. Next slide. These are some of the people that we work with in ETH Denver, and as you can see, these are some of the top leading projects in crypto at the moment. So more and more people are taking this seriously. Next slide. So we can also create hackathons. We're working with a number of projects this year across the world. Africa is the next one. We want to do more in Latin America, but if you have a project, we can organize hackathons with you and help to champion diversity. Next slide. We can also create a dev pipeline. We have amazing talented developers in H.E.R DAO, and we have connections with other projects as well. So if you are struggling to find diverse teams, please come to us. Next slide. So we can also help you, because some people want to do this stuff, but they don't actually know what to do, where to find people, etc. So, if you come to H.E.R DAO, we can actually help you devise some of these strategies for your projects. Next slide, please. So, sponsorship. If you want to work with us, but you're a bootstrap startup, we have multiple avenues for joint funding, so don't think that you have to have loads and loads of cash. Sometimes people don't have cash and they just have resources, or they come and do workshops. So there's multiple avenues of ways that you can work and get this equitable future started. Next slide, please. So that's it. It's kind of short and sweet. I mean, no one has to bang on, but you can contact me. I'm at Onaelle, or you can contact H.E.R DAO on Twitter, or please join our Telegram group and get involved. We also have a Discord. We're actually only a few months old. We've actually done an amazing amount of work in the last 3 months, and we're still forming it as a DAO. There are asks like, we're working on tokenomics, we're working on our token engineering. So if there's anybody here that has that experience, please come and talk to us, because we need you. But it would just be nice if people just joined. We are completely inclusive. You don't have to be a woman to join. And if we work together, we can build this equitable future of mass adoption that we're all talking about. Thank you very much.